What does it mean if you change your mind about things a lot? That you're naive? That you'll believe anything people tell you in the moment? They say if you open your mind too much, your brain will fall out. But then it also has to be true that if you close your mind too much, you'll never learn anything again. Meaning whether you're too open-minded or too close-minded, the bottom line is you're stupid. So we have to strike that balance. Balance governs everything. If I was into astrology, I'd say Libra is the most important sign because it's the diplomat of the zodiac, it's represented by scales, and life as a whole requires structure with equal support on both sides to avoid dangerous tilts. You have to have light and darkness, chaos and order, yin and yang. You have to be able to see and identify both sides of any debate, any conversation. Any opinion you form must be built on a sustainable foundation of the opposition. If you're pro-abortion, you better have come to that conclusion by reading both brochures in full. Same with anything. You can pick a side, but don't let it become your dogma, because your beliefs are not absolute. There's always some perspective-altering thing you've yet to experience, and it could be right around the corner or across state lines, but it's definitely there. Be open, but not too open. Be firm, but not too firm. I might be more political now, but I'm still a non-voter at heart. When 2020 comes around, I'll still be on the sidelines where I've always been. Some candidates on the left side have talked about automatic voter registration, which is a nonsense idea. Compelling people to cast votes is by definition unconstitutional, not to mention the absolute danger of having every single American's name, age, and eligibility-related information stored online for whoever to access at any time. Stop advocating for more ways to hand out personal information to unnamed entities in cyberspace, please. PayPal keeps trying to ask me for my social security number now, and I'm like, you can fuck right off, PayPal. You never did that shit before. I'm sure not just gonna acquiesce because you asked nicely. Paranoia about government and cybersecurity and big tech seems less and less irrational with every passing day. But back to non-voting. We draw some ire from both sides for not participating in shaping the country. Yeah, it's a team effort, but not everybody has to play. Every game's got bench warmers and water boys and cheering sections and the band and the announcers. There are plenty of roles to fill that don't involve playing. First of all, if you're dumb, you shouldn't vote. If you don't know what you're voting for, don't vote. There are dumb people on both sides who are different kinds of dumb. The dumb people on the right shotgun a Monster Energy drink and smash the can on their foreheads like, I vote for whoever loves my country the most. They have to like white supremacy, arming the teachers, and banning the Muslims. While the dumb people on the left push up their hipster glasses and twirl their pink beards like, I vote for whoever's the most oppressed based on how they were born. They have to like equality of outcome, open borders, anti-Semitism, and crucifying people for old jokes. If you don't know shit, don't do shit. Don't vote. But non-voting is not reserved exclusively for dumb people. It's also for people who don't trust the system. It's for people who don't trust the information, who know there's a ton of fake news and distorted facts out there and don't want to be duped into supporting a lie. It's for people who would rather sit on the sidelines and make fun of it all. It's for people who don't appreciate a sense of forced obligation. People who don't want to be told what to vote for or who to believe in. People who just want to mind their own damn business. Me not voting is not your business unless I make it your business, which this video pretty much makes it your business. But there's plenty of other people who don't advertise their non-voting who don't deserve your scorn. PSA: do not watch edited political TV interviews. Just don't. I don't care which side. Don't do it. Any hour-long interview that has been condensed into 7 minutes for a segment of a show is garbage. Don't watch it. The Jefferies show is the most recent one to prove this. They, in particular, have deceptively edited interviews and treated them like jigsaw puzzles, moving pieces around to places they don't belong with the ultimate goal of making the guest who represents the opposition look as bad as possible, showing them giving answers to questions they weren't being asked, trimming nuanced takes into blatant sound bites, and generally editing out anything that might make them seem like a reasonable human. This has been proven because a recent guest has just released footage that he took of the interview that he secretly recorded because he knew they did this shit, and it's absolute blatant dishonesty, hypocrisy, and fake trash. The guest is a Jewish Israelite who lives in Australia and is critical of Islam. Before the interview even starts, the show does this preamble about white supremacist reactions to the Christchurch shooting, and then goes straight to the interview, implying this dude is aligned with white supremacy. Jefferies in the official interview is sitting there, defending Islam and Muslims in the wake of the Christchurch shooting, coming out against Muslim bans and championing them all as upstanding citizens, which is fine, feel free to think that. but when he thinks he's in a position where what he's saying is off the record or will be edited out, he actually sits there and talks shit about Muslims, about how they're dangerous and stupid, going so far as to literally take his sketchbook and draw a caricature of Muhammad and show it to the dude he's interviewing. You know, that thing Muslim countries will put you to death for? What an ardent supporter, what a principled defender of the Muslim faith. If Jim Jefferies isn't an ally, I don't know who is. Now, in a vacuum, I don't care about anything Jim said that may have been considered offensive, and I don't even care that he drew Muhammad. I think if people want to kill you because you take a pencil and sketch somebody important to them, those people are kind of fucked up. If you want to kill someone over a drawing, maybe you're a psychopath that shouldn't be controversial. And it definitely shouldn't be defended by people who criticize all religions except Islam because they think it's racist to do so because they're idiots. But because these behind-the-scenes shenanigans completely contradict the loving, uber-progressive left-wing persona Jim Jefferies dons specifically for this show, apparently, it just makes him a goddamn hack. I like Jim Jefferies' stand-up. I've seen all of them, and I've respected the liberal views he's put in those specials because they appear genuine, like the gun control routine, and they're funny. But this fake shit? Why do you have this show? For the money? Why did you pick this format? Why are you going on TV and maligning people as white supremacists when after the cameras have turned off, you turn to them and say, you know, we don't actually disagree on much? It makes you a political hack. Period. It's damaging to public discourse overall and has a net negative impact on the world. How many laughs do you need to balance out the destruction of free thought and intellectual debate? That's a serious fucking question. Nobody should be okay with this, not progressives, because Jim is saying things they would find sacrilegious to their ideology and he's just pretending to be one of them, not the center-adjacent liberals or conservatives because of how damaging it is to political discourse, and not the actual white supremacists and Nazis because now they're being associated with this guest who, if we recall, happens to be a Jew. It's dishonest demagoguery at its most blatant. I used to watch this show. Not anymore. I was thinking about atheism again in the shower, which is what I do when I'm not jerking it hella. Sometimes I do both. I'm like, oh God, there's no God. There's no God. But I was thinking about how some people like to classify atheism as a religion. And my initial gut response to that when I was like 16 was to come up with, if atheism is a religion, does not playing sports make me an athlete? And that defense operates under the assumption that atheism is simply a lack of belief, but it really isn't. Atheism has to be a belief. You can argue whether it's a religion, as opposed to just a way of life or an opinion, and we'll explore that more later, but in order to be a card-carrying atheist, you must believe that there is no God. If you consider the question unknowable, you're not atheist, you're agnostic. Also, by the way, if you just don't know, or haven't made a decision on whether you believe in God or not, that doesn't make you agnostic. You have to fundamentally believe that it's an unanswerable question. That's the definition of agnosticism. The reality, as I see it, is you can't have lack of belief without belief on the opposite side. It's the same coin. In order to not believe in God, you must believe in no God. That's a belief, man. You can take a coin with two sides, and you can scrape off the face of one of the sides, disfigure it, try and render it illegible, but the coin still has two sides, because if you flip that coin, it can still land with your preferred side facing down. And then what are you looking at? The other side. No matter how much you tried to remove it or pretend it doesn't exist, it's staring right back up at you with its busted face, laughing at your attempts to defy both physics and logic. Atheism is a lack of belief in God or gods, and a belief that no God or gods exist. Or look at it this way, if you didn't like my coin analogy despite it being pitch perfect, imagine you're a juror and someone is on trial for a crime they may or may not have committed. You have to decide whether you believe they are guilty or innocent. Both are beliefs. You can't just say you don't believe he's guilty without believing he is innocent. When the left side of a scale tips in one direction, the right side must tip equally in the other. Science tells us that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's science telling us that shit, not some theological scholar or preacher. To disbelieve is a mental action, and the reaction it sets off is a belief in the opposite. So I've overmade that point, but I was real excited about making it, so let's move on. Atheism has one singular commandment. And it is indeed a commandment. Not a commandment from God, but a commandment from within. It commands that you believe in no God or gods. You can't be an atheist without following that commandment. The first commandment of Christianity is, thou shalt have no other gods before me, while the atheist one is, thou shalt have no gods. Not too far off, just one less god to believe in. But to have no gods is a belief that carries several other connotations, because how does that belief impact how you see the world and life? If there is no God, then life is not a calculated creation. The existence of the known universe is unintentional. Life as we know it is a result of pure luck, and there is no meaning to be found in luck. As a result, to believe in no gods is to also believe that the universe has no meaning. The existence of life has no meaning. Humans have no inherent purpose but to repopulate. And even that is purposeless as far as the individual is concerned. Once you're dead and you become nothing, who cares if you ever had children? You won't. You won't feel anything. You'll be nothing. Your purpose will be as fleeting as your life on Earth. And what good is purpose if it eventually runs out? Purpose intrinsically has to be everlasting, and it has to be higher than yourself. It has to contribute to something that will continue after you have stopped helping. I've actually never heard of a short-term purpose, or a self-contained purpose. All purposes are made to extend beyond yourself, and beyond your timeline. The only purposes that turn out to be short-term are ones that get in competition with other opposing purposes. Purposes can kill each other, but no purpose has ever committed suicide. It's either killed by opposing purposes, or it's abandoned by the people who created it and left to wither alone. My recent conundrum with atheism, which is more so a conundrum with death being the end, is that once you're dead and purpose has died with you, because everything has died with you, because nothing exists beyond your consciousness, which is now permanently shut off, because as far as your consciousness is concerned, something that might as well not exist and something not existing is exactly the same thing, because if you're dead, why should the world exist? Like really, everything further that happens to it is not only irrelevant, it's imperceivable. Why shouldn't the world die with you when you die? How do you answer? Maybe you say it wouldn't be fair to everyone else. But what the fuck is fair? What is fairness? What is that concept, and how was it born in a world that exists by accident with no purpose? How can fairness exist without purpose? What is the purpose of fairness? To make things fair. Why is fairness useful? Because people like it. Why do people like it? Because it's fair. People want an equal playing field, and they want everyone to have the same opportunities, and yet there is no God, and so the world is not a purposeful creation, and so all life on Earth is dumb luck. And we want fairness in a world built by luck? We want purpose in a world that exists by accident, that we can no longer perceive when we die, but still want to exist and keep going without us? If death is the end, it's truly the end. It's the end of everything. But if it's not the end, and we can still perceive the world after we die, whether it's from heaven or even from hell, or from reincarnation or Elysium, or whatever promised land that has been offered as a get-out-of-purposelessness free card, then purpose truly does extend beyond our own lives and contributes to an overall goal of sustainability that can not only sustain, but be noticed and appreciated. Even if the world is an accident, and everything is without purpose, and existence is just luck, the only blockade standing in the way of purpose in a purposeless world is the finality of death. That's it. There could be no God or divine plan, whatever, don't need it. We're on a space rock for no reason, bitchin'. Let's make the best time of it we can, let's build something to last generations, but the only reason to do that is if we can always appreciate it. If after we die, we get plopped right back into this world, or we wake up in a viewing area on some distant world where we can keep tabs on our creations and struggles and efforts here, then that's purpose. But once we're removed from our own equation, the reasons to have built anything at all come into question. People say things like, you shouldn't need the conditional promise of everlasting paradise or the conditional threat of everlasting torment as a reason to be a good person now. But you definitely fucking do, though. The only reason people who don't believe in conditional paradise or torment do good things or try to be good people is because they aren't sure. Nobody's sure. Imagine being sure. Imagine you knew for a fact you will get into everlasting paradise regardless of your actions on Earth. First of all, the suicide rate would skyrocket. People would be trampling over themselves in a rush to go home and slit their own throats. You're saying I can have paradise forever, right now? Where's the nearest roof? What kind of bullshit is Earth compared to a permanent haven of bliss and prosperity where the hottest girls line up to fuck me every day? And I can have anything I desire, even stuff I don't know about yet. So once the initial suicides are out of the way, which by my estimation would leave about 1% of the population, because who would be like, nah, it's cool, I'll just chill here. If any member of your family goes, you're all going. Some 12-year-old's like, I don't want to go to paradise. His dad's like, your mother, sister, and I are all going, and we're not leaving you behind. Now get in the car, we're driving into a lake. So 1% of the population is left, which is not enough people to manage everything that 100% of the population used to do, so it devolves into an apocalyptic state where people gleefully probably kill each other just for fun recreationally, knowing what happens when they finally die. Suddenly Earth is just recess on a bloody playground until everyone gets where they're supposed to go. And then they won't even want to look down at what they've left behind. It'll be a disaster. So maybe the continued functionality of Earth actually relies on the cloak and dagger behind paradise. Maybe that's why we don't know, and we never will until we die. Assuming paradise would be a new place, keeping itself a secret would be a necessity to keeping Earth functioning for future generations. Although if you can also give birth in paradise, what would we even need Earth for? If everyone who was already dead was in paradise and could procreate from there, there'd really be no reason not to just sever the cord on Earth entirely. Use some fantastic paradise laser, blow the Earth to smithereens, and get us all over there pronto, guys. But if reincarnation was the case, let's say, and every time we died we ended up back on Earth in some form or another, there would remain reasons to build and improve. The Earth would be our paradise, our constant home. There would also be reasons to innovate environmentally and protect wildlife and habitats, because politicians would be like, I'm committed to saving our rainforests. My dearly departed sister is a baboon now. I've got to do right by her. Do you stay in contact at that point? How do you know what they turn into? Even if you don't, you'd have to weigh the odds that a loved one could be an endangered species or something, like, this lion could be my dad. If I don't protect him from poachers, he could end up as a termite. Nobody wants to be a termite. I don't really have a conclusion to all this. I started this section off with just a few sentences I'd put together in my head about atheism, and then as I kept going, I basically just wrote what came to mind as I went, like I had a full philosophical improv session about death and paradise, and realized that my views were changing as I was typing. You guys should try doing that if you want to figure yourselves out. Just start writing about a topic and ask yourself questions as you go. You might come out a lot different than you went in. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino. You can become a channel member for exclusive bullshit. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.